Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I've been working at this small sales company for about 4 years when I finally hit my breaking point. The job started out decent enough. The commission structure made sense back then. You sold more, you earned more. Simple math that kept me motivated to actually try. But around year 2, the first restructure happened. Management called a big meeting, said they were adjusting the commission percentages to make things more equitable. My paycheck took a small hit, but I figured it was temporary. Then 6 months later, another restructure. Then another one after that. Each restructure came with the same corporate speech about efficiency and fairness. But my sales numbers kept climbing while my actual income kept dropping. I was literally working harder and making less money with every passing month. The math stopped making any kind of sense. My boss and I butted heads constantly. Nothing explosive or dramatic, but we disagreed on basically everything. She wanted me focused purely on volume, pushing as many sales as possible regardless of quality. I thought building actual relationships with clients mattered more than just burning through leads like disposable contacts. She critiqued my approach in team meetings, usually in front of everyone else. I'd push back and defend my methods. She'd get that pinched look on her face, the one she always made when someone questioned her authority. I'd head back to my desk and keep doing things my way anyway. The weird thing was, I never got fired. I think my sales numbers were just good enough that she couldn't justify letting me go even though I could tell she wanted to. But that tension sat between us constantly, making every interaction uncomfortable. When I finally decided to quit, I gave a proper 2 weeks notice, typed up a professional resignation letter and everything. First thing that morning around 8:30 a.m., they stripped all my accounts away. Every client I'd spent months or years building relationships with got reassigned to other salespeople. No transition meetings, no handoff notes, nothing. They just took everything and redistributed it. Then my boss told me I still had to stay until 3 p.m. for an exit interview. I'd already cleaned out my desk the previous Friday, took home my few personal belongings, wiped down all the surfaces, emptied every drawer completely. There was absolutely nothing left for me to do except sit there and stare at the clock. I wandered around the office a bit, said goodbye to a couple coworkers who weren't terrible. That's when I ended up in the supply closet looking for nothing in particular. And that's where I found the business card boxes. 2 full boxes of my business cards sitting on a shelf gathering dust. My name, my direct phone number, my email address, the company logo. I did a quick count and figured there were around 700 cards total, maybe even more. They were obviously just going to toss them in the recycling bin or run them through the shredder once I was gone. Nobody had any use for them anymore. So I grabbed both boxes and decided to make the most of my remaining 6 hours. I started hiding the cards. Not in obvious places where someone would find a stack and clean them all up in one sweep. I hid every single card individually, spreading them throughout the entire office and warehouse like a bizarre scavenger hunt. My boss kept her office blinds open most of the time, those vertical plastic shutters that twist to control the light. I wedged about 50 cards between the individual slats, pushing them in deep so they wouldn't fall out immediately. When she eventually closes those blinds, business cards are going to rain down all over her desk and carpet. The conference room had long, horizontal windows with thin ledges running underneath them. I lined those ledges with cards, positioning them flat so they were basically invisible unless you were specifically looking for them. Someday someone's going to be sitting in a budget meeting or client presentation, look over at the window, and see my name randomly appearing where it absolutely shouldn't be. Everyone in the office had those clear rubber chair mats under their desks to protect the carpet from wheel damage. I slid cards underneath those mats at random spots. Now every time someone rolls around in their chair, they might catch a glimpse of my smiling headshot staring up at them through the transparent rubber. The bathrooms had industrial paper towel dispensers with those huge rolls loaded inside. I carefully unrolled several feet of paper towel tucked cards into the layers at different intervals, then rolled everything back up nice and tight. Now, whenever someone yanks out a paper towel, there's a solid chance my business card comes tumbling out with it. The break room first aid kit was one of those oversized plastic tackle boxes with about 20 different compartments. I slipped cards into every single section, tucked behind the boxes of bandages, hidden under the sterile gauze pads, wedged next to the bottles of hydrogen peroxide and tubes of antibiotic ointment. Someone's going to slice their finger on the copy machine someday, reach for a band-aid, and discover me waiting there instead. We had generic motivational artwork hanging on the walls throughout the office. Those cheap framed prints about teamwork and perseverance and reaching your full potential. I took down about 10 of them carefully, taped business cards to the backs of the frames, then hung them all back up in exactly the same spots. Could be 5 or 10 years before anyone takes those pictures down and discovers what's hidden behind them. The warehouse section was where I really went to town though. Hundreds upon hundreds of cardboard boxes stacked everywhere on metal industrial shelving and wooden shipping pallets. Every box that was even slightly open got one of my cards dropped inside. Outgoing shipments heading to clients, stored inventory waiting to be cataloged, returned merchandise sitting around waiting to get processed and restocked. My business card essentially became a permanent fixture of the entire warehouse inventory system. I tucked cards behind the toilet paper rolls in all 3 bathroom stalls, slipped them into the chest pockets of the extra safety vests hanging on hooks near the loading dock, shoved them down deep into the couch cushions in the lobby waiting area where clients sometimes sat, lifted acoustic ceiling tiles in the hallway, and placed cards on top of the metal framework before sliding the tiles back into their grids. I even found the box of company letterhead stationery and slipped a card between every 5th or 6th sheet. Someone's going to be printing an important letter to a client months from now and discover my card stuck to the back of their paper. Around noon, I grabbed lunch from my desk drawer, a sandwich I brought from home that morning, ate it slowly while continuing my card distribution project. The office was weirdly quiet. Most people were either out at lunch or actively avoiding me since I was the guy who quit. That gave me even more freedom to hide cards in increasingly creative locations. I found the supply cabinet where they kept backup office supplies, opened every single box of pens and tucked a card inside before closing them back up. Did the same thing with the boxes of printer paper, sliding cards between random reams. The coffee station had those individual creamer pods in a big basket. I buried about 20 cards at different levels throughout that basket. By the time 2:30 p.m. rolled around, I'd hidden every last card. All 700 of them were scattered throughout that building like a bizarre time capsule of my employment there. My boss called me into her office at 2:45 p.m. for the exit interview. She asked the standard boring questions about my overall experience with the company, what I thought went well, what could have been improved, why I decided to leave. I gave diplomatic, meaningless answers to everything. She pretended to take notes and act concerned about my feedback. We both knew none of it mattered. She asked if I had any final questions or concerns. I said no, everything was handled. She walked me to the front door at exactly 3 p.m., shook my hand with a fake smile, and wished me well in my future endeavors. I walked out of that building for the last time knowing I permanently marked my territory, not through sales achievements or outstanding performance reviews, through 700 tiny reminders scattered into every possible corner of that place. They're going to be finding my business cards for years, maybe even decades. Some new hire in the year 2035 is going to open a random supply box and wonder who I was and how my card ended up buried in their shipment of staplers. My boss wanted me to waste 6 hours sitting around doing absolutely nothing on my final day. I made sure those 6 hours counted for something. Every single card they eventually find is going to be a little reminder that I existed, that I worked there, and that no amount of restructuring could erase me completely. I've been shopping at Costco on a Saturday afternoon, which was my first mistake. The place was packed. My cart was loaded with the usual bulk items, paper towels, frozen chicken, those giant containers of pretzels my kids demolish in about 3 days. I made it through checkout without incident, loaded everything back into my cart, and was heading toward the exit when I looked down and noticed the box of granola bars I'd grabbed. Wrong flavor. I'd somehow picked up the chocolate chip ones instead of the peanut butter ones my daughter actually eats. The chocolate chip ones would just sit in the pantry until they expired because she's weirdly particular about her granola bars. I sighed and turned my cart around, navigating back through the crowd toward the returns and exchanges desk near the front. There was already a man standing at the desk talking to one of the supervisors. He had a receipt in his hand and seemed to be explaining something about a refund. I pulled my cart up behind him and waited. The desk wasn't busy, just him and the supervisor working through whatever his issue was. I was scrolling through my phone, half paying attention, when I heard the sound of another cart approaching. I looked up just as this woman steered her cart directly in front of mine, completely bypassing the line. She didn't even look at me at first, just wheeled right up next to the man at the desk. Then she turned and gave me this little wave, the kind you'd give someone when you're pretending to be polite but clearly don't care. She told me she'd be quick and just had a question. I stared at her for a second. She was already turning back toward the desk, fully expecting me to just accept this. I told her I didn't give a crap and to wait in line. She whipped her head back around and looked at me like I'd just spoken in tongues. Her mouth actually fell open. She asked me to excuse her and said I was being incredibly rude. I told her fine, pretty effing please then, and asked what made her question more important than mine. Her face went red. The man at the desk looked over his shoulder, clearly trying not to smile. The supervisor behind the desk kept a straight face, but I could see the corner of his mouth twitching. She said she was just going to ask a quick question, and it would take 2 seconds. I told her mine would too, and that's why there's a line. She needed to wait her turn like everyone else. She stood there for another moment, gripping her cart handle, her jaw clenched. I could see her running through her options. She could keep arguing, but it was clear I wasn't backing down, and now the man in front had finished with the supervisor and was stepping aside. The supervisor looked past her directly at me and said he could help whoever was next. I pushed my cart forward. The woman didn't move at first, just stood there fuming. Then she jerked her cart backward and moved to the side, muttering something I couldn't quite hear but could definitely guess at. I stepped up to the desk and explained my granola bar situation. The supervisor told me to just go grab the right box and bring it back, and he'd handle the swap. Easy. Took maybe 30 seconds total. I thanked him and headed back toward the aisles. When I was walking away, I looked back and saw the woman stepping up to the desk. She looked like she wanted to file a complaint about me but thought better of it. When I got home, I told my wife what happened while I was unloading the groceries. She listened, nodded along, and then gave me that look. She asked if I'd cursed at the woman. I told her yeah, because the woman had got in front of me. My wife said she knew that but asked if I really had to drop an F-bomb in the middle of Costco. I said the woman needed to hear it. My wife told me I probably overreacted a little. I thought about it for a second. Maybe the cursing was over the top. Could I have handled it with less profanity? Sure. But did I regret calling her out? Absolutely not. I admitted maybe I shouldn't have cursed, but said I wasn't apologizing for telling her to wait in line. My wife shook her head, but she was smiling. She said I was impossible. I told her the woman had waved at me like that made it okay. My wife said she knew. I kept going, saying it was a little wave, like I was supposed to just smile and let her skip ahead. My wife said she got it. I put the peanut butter granola bars in the pantry and cracked open a beer. My daughter wandered into the kitchen a few minutes later and immediately spotted the box. She asked if I got the right ones this time. I told her yeah, I got the right ones. She said cool. She grabbed one and disappeared back upstairs. My wife leaned against the counter, still giving me that amused look. She asked if I really told the woman I didn't give a crap. I confirmed it was word for word. She asked if the woman still tried to argue after that. I said yep, and told her the woman said I was being rude. My wife said that was amazing. I agreed. Later that night, I was sitting on the couch replaying the whole thing in my head. Could I have been nicer? Probably. Should I have been? I didn't think so. People like that, people who think their time is more valuable than everyone else's, they only keep doing it because nobody calls them out. Somebody had to say something. And yeah, maybe I could have said it without the cursing. But honestly, her reaction when I told her to wait in line made the whole thing worth it. I lost most of my hearing when I was 7 years old. Meningitis hit me hard that summer, and by the time I recovered, the world had gone almost completely silent. Learning to live deaf taught me to read lips pretty well, but it only works if people face me and speak clearly. Most folks are understanding once I explain my situation. Most, but not all. My sister became a police officer about 5 years ago. She's protective of me, always has been, but she knows I can handle myself. We try to hang out whenever our schedules line up, and that Saturday, we decided to hit the mall together. I needed new shoes and she wanted to browse the bookstore. We'd been there about an hour when we split up after grabbing coffee. She headed to the restroom while I walked toward the shoe store on the second floor. I was looking at my phone, checking the sale prices, when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and saw a woman standing there, her mouth moving rapidly. I couldn't make out what she was saying because she kept turning her head and gesturing wildly. I held up my hand and pointed to my ear, then shook my head. I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't hear her because I was deaf. She stopped moving for a second and I thought maybe she understood. But then her face twisted up with anger and her mouth started going even faster. She stepped closer, invading my space, and I backed up against the railing overlooking the first floor. I explained again that I really couldn't hear what she was saying. I asked if she could just face me and slow down so I could try to read her lips. She wasn't having it. Her face got red and she jabbed her finger toward my chest. I still had no idea what she wanted. Was she asking for directions? Did she think I cut in front of her somewhere? Did I accidentally bump into her? I genuinely couldn't tell. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, typing quickly. I held the screen up so she could read it. The message said I was deaf and couldn't hear her, and asked her to please write down what she needed or speak slowly while facing me. She slapped the phone out of my hand. It clattered onto the floor and I heard that much at least, a sharp crack that made my heart sink. The screen had a spiderweb crack across it now. I bent down to pick it up and that's when I felt her grab my shoulder and yank me back up. Her face was right in front of mine now, so close I could smell her perfume. She was screaming. I could see the rage in her expression, the way her eyes bulged and her mouth moved frantically. Still couldn't hear a word. People were starting to stare now, stopping their shopping to watch whatever was happening. A few of them had pulled out their phones. I tried one more time, telling her I didn't know what she wanted from me and that I couldn't hear her because I was deaf. I showed her my cracked phone screen again, pointing to the message I typed. That's when she hit me. Both hands came up and she slapped them hard against my ears. The pain shot through my head like lightning. Even though I couldn't hear normally, the impact was sharp and disorienting. My vision blurred for a second and I stumbled backward, grabbing the railing to keep from falling. My ears were ringing now, a high-pitched whine that cut through the usual silence. She raised her hand again and I threw my arms up to protect my face, but the second blow never came. Instead, I saw her expression change from rage to shock in an instant. Her body jerked sideways and suddenly she was face down on the ground. My sister was on top of her, one knee pressed into her back, wrenching her arms behind her. I'd never seen my sister move that fast. She must have come out of the restroom and seen what was happening. Her face was set in pure fury. My sister pulled something from her pocket. Even off duty, she carries her badge and cuffs. She had them on the woman in seconds, and the woman started thrashing and screaming. A crowd had formed around us now, at least 20 people in a circle. People had their phones out recording everything. The woman was trying to twist around, her mouth moving in what I assumed were protests or threats. My sister wasn't listening. She kept her pinned there, not budging an inch. She was saying something to the woman, and I could tell from her expression it wasn't pleasant. Someone must have called male security because 2 guards showed up within minutes, followed shortly by actual uniformed officers. My sister knew them, I could tell by the way they greeted her. One of them clasped her shoulder and nodded. She stayed calm and professional when she explained what she'd witnessed, pointing to me and then to the woman on the ground. She described how she'd seen the woman slap my phone away, grab me, and then hit me hard across both ears. One of the officers came over to check on me. I was still shaking, my ears ringing with phantom pain. He asked if I was all right and if I needed medical attention. I shook my head and explained what happened, about being deaf, about trying to communicate, about showing her my phone. I told him about the slap to my ears and showed him my cracked phone screen. He asked if I tried to leave or walk away before she hit me. I told him yes. I'd backed up against the railing trying to get space. He wrote everything down carefully and asked if I wanted to press charges. I told him yes, absolutely yes. They hauled the woman to her feet. She was still trying to talk her way out of it, her face red and twisted. She kept pointing at me like I was the problem. She gestured at my ears and then at herself, clearly trying to claim something. The officers weren't buying it. One of them held up his hand and told her to save it for the station. Too many witnesses had seen her hit me. Too many videos had been recorded. My sister finally stood up, brushing off her jeans. She walked over and pulled me into a tight hug. When she pulled back, she looked me in the eye and asked if I was okay and if the woman had hurt me badly. I told her I was fine and that my ears hurt, but I'd be okay. She examined my face closely, checking for any other injuries. She promised me that the woman wasn't getting away with this. The officers took the woman away in handcuffs. She was still arguing, still acting like she was a victim in all of this. She tried to dig her heels in when they guided her toward the escalator. I watched them lead her down to the first floor past all the staring shoppers with their cameras out. Mall security helped us file an official report. The manager of the shoe store came out and apologized, even though none of it was their fault. They gave us the security footage without us even asking. Said they wanted to make sure the right thing happened. They also offered to give me a 20% discount on any shoes I wanted, trying to make up for what happened in front of their store. My sister stayed with me the whole time, her jaw clenched, her protective instinct on full display. We eventually left the mall, my new shoes forgotten. I'd lost interest in shopping after getting assaulted. We stopped at a phone repair shop on the way home. The repair would cost $120 and take 3 days. I paid for it, and we drove back to my apartment. My sister insisted on staying with me that night. She made dinner, and we watched movies until I felt better. 2 weeks later, I got a call through the relay service. The woman had been charged with assault and destruction of property. The property charge was for my phone. She tried to fight it, claimed I had provoked her somehow, but the video evidence was crystal clear. Multiple angles showed her slapping my phone away and then hitting me. Her lawyer tried to negotiate it down, but the prosecutor wasn't interested. She pleaded guilty eventually. The judge gave her 90 days of community service and anger management classes. She also had to pay me $300 in restitution for my phone and medical costs. Not much, but something. More importantly, she had an assault charge on her record now. My sister took me out for dinner that night to celebrate. She told me that nobody touches her sibling and that nobody gets away with it. I thanked her for having my back. She said she'd always have it, no matter what. She also said she wished she could have gotten there 5 seconds earlier. I told her she got there exactly when I needed her. My husband's been dealing with all kinds of customers at this little grocery store on the edge of town, but what happened yesterday takes the cake. Actually, it takes the cheesecake. Let me tell you about the most insane meltdown I've ever heard about. The store where he works is pretty small. Everyone who works there knows each other real well, and they don't put up with nonsense. It's the kind of place where regulars come in just to chat with whoever is working that day. Most people who shop there are pretty chill, but every now and then you get someone who makes you question everything. So my husband was working the register like he does most days. It was a pretty normal afternoon around 2:30. A few customers were wandering around doing their shopping, nothing out of the ordinary. Then this woman walked in. Middle-aged, looked like she'd been sucking on a lemon all morning. She didn't even glance at anyone else, just walked straight back to where they keep the pastries and desserts, like she knew exactly what she was looking for. He said he could hear her back there making noise, huffing real loud, stomping her feet. The kind of sounds a toddler makes when they're told they can't have candy. Other customers started looking toward the back of the store because she was being so loud about whatever was bothering her. One older guy near the bread aisle actually moved to a different section because of all the racket she was making. Then she came stomping up to the front, had a cheesecake in her hands. She walked right past two other customers who were waiting in line, just cut in front of them like they didn't even exist. She slammed the cheesecake down on the counter so hard that the container almost burst open right there. My husband said he just stared at her for a second because who does that to a cheesecake? She started going off about how the cheesecake was on sale last week and now it was $11. Said she refused to pay that much for it. My husband told her that was fine because nobody was forcing her to buy it. She rolled her eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't get stuck. Made this disgusted face like he'd just said the dumbest thing she'd ever heard. She snapped back that obviously nobody could make her do anything. Then she went on about how the sale ended too soon and there should have been a sign warning people about it. Started saying the store was running some kind of scam on customers. My husband told her that wasn't actually a requirement anywhere. He also asked her to lower her voice because she was causing a scene and there were other customers in the store trying to shop. The two people she'd caught in front of were just standing there with their groceries watching this whole thing go down. That's when she gave him this death glare. Like if looks could kill, he would have dropped right there. She demanded to know who he thought he was and said she wanted to speak to his manager. Started saying she was going to get him fired for being rude to her. Perfect timing, because the manager was already walking up front. He'd heard the commotion from the back office where he was doing paperwork. The manager is this guy who's been running the store for about 15 years, takes no crap from anyone. He's fair, but he's firm. The manager told her straight up that the cheesecake was $11. Said she could either pay for it or leave. Her choice. She said she wasn't going anywhere until she got what was promised to her. Started going on again about how it was on sale last week for $7.99 and there was no warning sign. Said he owed her a discount. Demanded they honor the old sale price. The manager said he didn't owe her a damn thing. Said she could leave his store or he was calling the police. Said they'd already asked her to lower her voice and she was standing there causing a scene. Told her to leave or go to jail. She started yelling louder at that point. Said she spent hundreds of dollars at this store every month and deserved better treatment. While this was going on, she started getting up in the manager's face, like really close. My husband said that's when he picked up the phone and called the cops because this woman looked unhinged. They went back and forth arguing for a few more minutes. He couldn't hear exactly what they were saying because he was on the phone with the dispatcher explaining what was happening. The two customers who'd been waiting just put their stuff down and left at that point. Didn't even want to deal with the drama. When he got off the phone, he walked back over to where they were still going at it. He let her know that the police were on their way and she really needed to leave now. This was probably the 5th or 6th time someone had told her to leave. You'd think she would have gotten the message by now. But no. She stomped away from the register, turned around and screamed that she'd show them a real scene. Said they had no idea who they were messing with. Then she threw the cheesecake on the floor, just hurled it down with both hands. The lid popped off and cheesecake went everywhere. All over the floor, splattered on the bottom shelves nearby, even got some on the register counter. Just a complete mess. But she wasn't done. When she was walking toward the door, she started swiping her arms across the shelves. Knocked over crackers, cookies, chips, cans of soup. Everything just came crashing down. My husband said it sounded like a bomb going off with all the noise. She was destroying the store like some kind of tornado. Grabbed a display of candy bars near the door and just threw the whole thing on the ground. She made it out to the parking lot, but the cops were already pulling up. My husband said you could still hear her screaming outside, absolutely losing her mind over an $11 cheesecake that she didn't even have to buy in the first place. She was yelling about how she was going to sue the store and get everyone fired. The officers talked to her for a minute, then talked to the manager and my husband. Got statements from everyone. Looked at the mess she'd made inside. Took pictures of the cheesecake splattered everywhere and all the products knocked off the shelves. The manager told them she'd been asked to leave at least 6 times and refused every single time. Then they put her in handcuffs and took her to jail. She was still screaming when they put her in the back of the patrol car. Later that evening, around 6:15, the manager called my husband to let him know what she got charged with. Disorderly conduct for all the screaming and acting like a complete lunatic. Trespassing because she refused to leave after being asked multiple times. And criminal mischief for throwing the cheesecake and knocking everything off the shelves. The manager said the damage to products came out to about $85. My husband came home and told me the whole story. We just sat there laughing about it. All that over a cheesecake. She could have just walked out. Could have just not bought it. Could have gone to literally any other store and bought a different cheesecake. But instead she chose to throw a fit, destroy property, assault a display rack, and end up in jail. The manager banned her from the store. So even if she wanted to come back and buy that cheesecake at full price, she can't. My husband said the funniest part was when the cops were walking her out and she was yelling about her lawyer. Like having a lawyer was going to change the fact that she just trashed a store over dessert. Hope it was worth it. I moved to the US about 6 years ago. Met my husband here. Built a life, got married. Things have been really good between us. Back in Brazil, my mom lives comfortably. She has help around the house, a driver, the whole setup. And I won't lie, a big chunk of what keeps that lifestyle going comes from money I send every month. I don't mind, she's my mom. And my little brother still lives with her. He just turned 15. I hadn't seen either of them in a year. Work kept me busy. Life happened. But I missed my brother like crazy. We used to be close. Really close. I practically helped raise him when he was younger. So I wanted to do something special. I booked them both business class tickets. International flights aren't cheap, especially in business class. But my mom has some health issues and I wanted her to be comfortable. I paid for everything. The flights, the hotels, all of it. I planned this whole trip just so we could reconnect. They landed on a Thursday afternoon. The first thing my mom said when she saw my house was that it looked smaller than she expected. Then she walked through the living room and asked why I didn't have anyone to help me clean. I told her I clean my own house. I actually like cooking and taking care of things myself. She laughed, not in a nice way. She said I could have married better, then I wouldn't have to do all this myself. I let it slide. Jet lag makes people cranky. But it didn't stop. Over the next 2 days, she kept making little comments about my furniture, about my husband's job, about the neighborhood. She said I looked tired, said I should take better care of myself, asked if we were having problems because I seemed stressed. I wasn't stressed until she showed up. My brother barely said anything. He just sat on his phone most of the time. I tried talking to him, asked about school, his friends, football. He gave me one-word answers and went back to scrolling. I figured he was just being a teenager. Then we went away for the weekend. I booked us a nice place up in Big Sur. Beautiful views. Peaceful. I thought maybe getting out of the house would help everyone relax. Friday night seemed okay. We had dinner, walked around a little. My brother actually smiled a few times. But Saturday morning everything fell apart. I woke up around 8 and came downstairs to find my husband, sitting alone at breakfast. He looked uncomfortable. He was on his phone. I sat down next to him and asked where my mom was. He told me she went back to the room. I asked if she was okay. He didn't answer right away, just handed me his phone. There was a text thread between him and my mom from earlier that morning. She had messaged him privately the night before, saying she needed to talk to him alone. He showed me the message right away and told her anything she wanted to say could be said to both of us. But that morning, while I was still upstairs, she found him in the lobby and cornered him anyway. He started texting me while it was happening because he felt weird about the whole thing. When I asked him what she said, he looked exhausted. He told me she brought up stuff from before we got married. Things I did 6 years ago. Personal things. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what she was talking about. There were some things I did back then. Mistakes I made. Nothing horrible, but private. And yes, I had already told my husband about all of it. Years ago, before we even got engaged. I asked what he said to her. He told me he said he already knew everything. Then he asked her what her goal was in bringing it up. I asked what happened next. He said she started crying. Said she was just worried about me. Then she asked him to leave the table because she felt attacked. I got up and went to find her. She was in the room. Door locked. I knocked. I told her to open the door. She didn't answer. I said I knew she talked to him. Asked why she would do that. Still nothing. I told her she came all the way here and this is what she does. Tries to ruin my marriage. I heard her moving around inside but she wouldn't open the door. I went back downstairs. My husband and I tried to salvage the day but the whole trip was already ruined. My brother stayed in the room with her the entire time. Didn't come out for lunch. Didn't come out for dinner. We drove back home Sunday evening in complete silence. When we got back, my mom locked herself in the guest room. For a week. She came out to use the bathroom and grab food when no one was around. That's it. My brother started acting different too. Cold, distant. Whenever I tried to talk to him, he gave me short answers or just walked away. He spent all his time in the room with her. I could hear them talking in there sometimes. I don't speak Portuguese as much anymore, but I caught enough to know she was telling him things. Painting me as the bad guy. Making herself the victim. The boy I used to be so close to wouldn't even look at me anymore. I kept asking myself why. Why would a mother do this? Why would she fly thousands of miles, accept everything I gave her, and then try to blow up my life? Was she jealous? Did she hate that I was happy? That I built something good here? I supported her. I sent money every single month. I made sure she was taken care of. And this is what I got in return. Yesterday, I finally had enough. I walked into the guest room without knocking. I told her we needed to talk. She said she had nothing to say to me. I said fine. Then listen. I told her she came into my home. I paid for everything. I wanted to spend time with her and with my brother, and she repaid me by trying to destroy my marriage. She said she was trying to protect me. I asked from what? From being happy. From having a husband who actually respects me. She didn't answer. I told her what I thought. That she couldn't stand that I don't need her anymore. That I have a life here. That I'm not sitting around waiting for her approval. She said I abandoned them. I told her I send her money every month. I call. I visit when I can. I didn't abandon anyone. She said I chose him over my family. I said no, I chose myself. And yeah, I chose him too. Because he's good to me. And she hates that. She started crying again. Playing the victim. My brother just sat there staring at his phone. I looked at him and asked if he had anything to say. He didn't even look up. That hurt worse than anything my mom had done. I left the room. Their flight is in 2 days. I already checked them in online. I'm not driving them to the airport. I arranged a car service. I don't know if I'll ever see my brother again. Not the way he used to be. She took that from me, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive her. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.